Hello everyone, my name is Dhruv. I am an intern at LEXIS and Company. So today in this video we are going to talk about the right to protest, as right to protest is one of our fundamental rights. So we are going to discuss right to protest in detail. Now my first question to all of you is that what is protest? What exactly the word protest means? So if you guys know it, do mention it in the comment section. And moving forward with the video, we are going to discuss what is protest. So a formal declaration whereby a person expresses a personal or disapproval of an act, a written statement by a notary at a request of holder, or a bill or a note that describes the bill or the note and declares that on a certain day the instrument was presented for and refused the payment. Now a protest is made up of the main constituent, which is to save some right that would be waived unless a negative opinion is expressly voiced. And taxes are often paid under the protest, an action by which a taxpayer reserves the right to receive the amount paid if he has sufficient evidence to prevail. Now the document states the reason for the refusal and provides for the notary to protest all parties to the instrument, declaring that they can be held liable for any loss or damages. Now a notice of protest is given by the holder of that instrument. Now as we know protest, so there are different types of protest we listen in our daily lives, and we are going to discuss that one by one. So the protests are nothing other than civil disorders, and they can be divided into various categories. Now discussing and starting with the first category, which is boycotts. Now boycott can be defined as engaging with a group of people in a concerted refusal to have dealings, or which can be stated as protest against a person or a store or an organization or a group of people, which can be said as organizations only. Now the second type will be protest camps, and protest camps are physical camps that are set up by activists to provide a base or the protest, or to delay or obstruct or prevent the focus of their protest by physically blocking it with the camp. Moving on towards the third type of protest, which is civil disobedience. Now civil disobedience is also called passive resistance, and it means the refusal to obey the demands or command of the government or occupying power without resorting to violence or active measures of opposition. Now its usual purpose is to force concessions from the government or occupying power. Civil disobedience has been majorly a tactic and philosophy for the nationalist movement in basically in Africa and India, and in the American civil rights movement of labor, anti-war, and somewhere it is also used as social movements in many countries. Moving on to the other one, it says that cultural jamming. So cultural jamming is a protest used by many anti-communist social movements, and they use it to disrupt or subvert media culture and its mainstream cultural institutions, including corporate advertising. They do this at a very repetitive manner, and it attempts them to expose the method of domination of a mass society to foster the progressive changes. Now we moving on to demonstrations. What are basically demonstrations? So a manifestation of a protest by public rally or a parade of a group or a people which are marching together basically. So demonstration can be defined as a manifestation of a protest by a public rally or a group of people marching together. Now it can also be defined as an action by the mass of the group, as a mass of the group is constituted as a whole, and they all define the same type of actions, or the collections of groups of people in favor of a political or other cause of marketing in a protest is called concern. Now it often consists of walking in mass and march formation, and either beginning with the meeting at a designated end point. They always decide an end point. Now we will be moving on to the one of the very popular type of protest which is known as hunger strikes. So which is basically a self-defined term, and it says that a refusal to eat which is done consciously and intentionally undertaken in a protest against something, or to provoke the feeling of guilt in other people for something wrong they are doing, or if they have proposed to do anything, done usually with the objective to achieve a specific goal. Now such policy, such as like the policies which are changed by government, so many people sit on hunger strikes to oppose them. Now another one is protest marches. A protest march is again a type of protest or demonstration that involves a group of people and walking from an assembly point to their determined destination, and usually culminating in a political rally or sometimes evoking a military march or parade. Now, one of the silent ways to protest is filing petitions. It is a formally drawn request, often bearing the names of a number of those that making the request, and is addressed upon to the person or a group of persons in the power which is in the authority which is in power, and soliciting the right of the power for some society benefits. Now we will be discussing that, as these we learned about so many types of product protests. So are these protests legal in India? So the right to protest peacefully is enshrined in the Indian Constitution, and under Article 19 subclause A, which guarantees the freedom of speech and expression with the respect to Article 19 subclause 1 subclause B, which assures the citizens the right to assemble peacefully without arms. So the without arms is a condition to protest, and Article 19 subclause 2 imposes reasonable restrictions on the right to assemble peacefully without arms. Now the reason restrictions are imposed in the interests of the sovereignty and integrity of India, it is the security of the state, the friendly relations with the foreign states, public orders, decency or morality in the relation of the contempt of court, defamation, or sometimes incitement to an offense. Now one more major article plays a role here, which says that Article 51 subclause A makes it a fundamental duty for every person to safeguard public property and to avoid violence during the protest, and resorting to violence during public protest results in infringement of the key fundamental duties of the citizens. This was about that, are the protests legal in India or not. Now coming on to the what can be the purposes of the protest. Why do people protest? So the whole purpose or objective of the protest is to stand up for the injustice which is done by a people, a group of people, or an organizations, or sometimes government. Now this enables us, the citizens, to let the government know that we do not agree with their working of any law or their amendments in any law. It also helps in a way have check balances and reminds the government that we, the people of India, won't tolerate the government acting on their whim and fancies, and we would uphold the values of the constitution. So this was all about what is protest, why do people protest, what are the types of protests in which we can perform our rights and have protests, and are the protests legal or not. So we'll be meeting next time in another such video. Thank you.